It's 5 p.m. across India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global, bringing you all the day's biggest stories from across India and the world. With me today from London is my colleague, Ollie Bharat. Good afternoon, Ollie. How are you today?
Afternoon, Shubhendu. It's 12:30 here in London, 1:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, an historic announcement from Ukraine's president. France makes a major change in its Africa policy, and what we might learn from an asteroid sample. Lots more besides. First, the headlines.
Bharat Drone Shakti 2023 showcases prowess of India's drone industry with over 50 live demonstrations. C-295 transport aircraft formally inducted at the event. North Korea slams South Korean president for criticizing its cooperation with Moscow, says it is natural for neighbors to maintain close relations. French President Emmanuel Macron reverses stand on Niger, says he is pulling out his troops from the coup-hit nation, also plans to end diplomatic mission in Niger.
We are ending our military cooperation with the de facto authorities of Niger.
Militaire avec les autorités de fait du Niger.
And India bags historic gold medals in cricket and shooting on day 2 of the 19th Asian Games. Overall medal tally goes up to 11. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated a mega drone show in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh today. The Bharat Drone Shakti 2023, which is a 2-day event, is taking place at the Indian Air Force Hindon Air Base in Uttar Pradesh. The event is showcasing prowess of India's drone industry, hosting over 50 live aerial demonstrations. Also on display are over 75 exhibitors, which include agriculture, firefighting, life-saving drone ambulances, amongst others. Indian Defence Minister, along with Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary, watched a few aerial drone demonstrations, also visited some stalls at the exhibition area. The Indian Air Force is collaborating with the Drone Federation of India for this event, which is witnessing participation from more than 75 drone startups and corporates. Bharat Drone Shakti will boost India's commitment to becoming a global drone hub by 2030. Indian Air Force has formally inducted the C-295 transport aircraft, which will gradually replace the Indian Air Force Avro fleet. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh unveiled the aircraft at Uttar Pradesh's Hindon Air Base. The C-295 transport aircraft will enhance the Indian Air Force's tactical airlift capability along with border areas and in places like Andaman and Nicobar Archipelago. Equipped with indigenous electronic warfare systems, the aircraft also has rear ram doors for para-dropping of troops and cargo. Spain's ambassador to India, Jose Maria Redao, has expressed happiness over the induction of the C-295 transport aircraft into the Indian Air Force, saying that the country is proud to see the aircraft in India.
We are very proud and we're very happy to see this plane here in India. We don't see India only as a market, even as a market in defense industry. We see India as India, with many other things. We think also about cultural relations, we think about trade, civil trade. We think also about visas and these kinds of things, because India is a country in transition and we have to pay attention to the special needs they have to travel to our countries, to travel to a country of tourism as Spain. So we have to reflect on the whole relations and not to concentrate and to focus only in one aspect.
India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar hosted several leaders of the Global South at a special event on the sidelines of the UNGA. The leaders congratulated India on its successful G20 presidency and applauded the nation for extending help during the pandemic. Speaking during the event, S. Jaishankar said India stands as a stalwart leader of the Global South, advocating for the interests and concerns of developing nations on the international stage.
Both before the G20 presidency and certainly after it, we will remain very much a partner, a contributor, a collaborator, in our own way, perhaps an inspiration to others on how to address developmental challenges. Our experiences and our achievements we place before you in a spirit really of sharing. What I can say is that when it has come to South-South cooperation, we have endeavored to walk the talk.
And the Russia-Ukraine conflict rages on with greater intensity. My colleague Ollie is in London, gives us more on this and major stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, we understand that US has been one of Ukraine's biggest backers, but now this news of closer cooperation, the ramifications could be significant.
Well, certainly Ukraine believes so, and that's why the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has continued to carry that message on his various visits around the world, including at the United Nations General Assembly last week and then on those stops in Washington and Canada, insisting that Ukraine needs more and ongoing support from international allies if it is to be successful in the conflict against Russia. And both Russia and Ukraine are carrying forward their flurry of missile and drone attacks in each other's territories. An attack in Russia's Tula region shut down 2 civilian airports. With the war nowhere near an end, it seems, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has made what he calls an historic announcement. DD India's Megumi Lim sent us this report from Kiev.
Last Friday, as he wrapped up his trip to Washington, that the United States and Ukraine will be jointly producing weapons in the future. He said that this long-term agreement could help Ukraine create new jobs and also create a new industrial base in Ukraine, which could help the Ukrainian economy, which has been badly damaged by after 19 months of war. We have not heard the U.S. come forward to comment on this, but Zelensky did say that the Ministry of Strategic Industries, which is a ministry that overlooks weapons productions in Ukraine, signed over 2,000 agreements with 2,000 U.S. defense companies during this trip. Now, although we have not heard from the U.S., there has been another major development in terms of weapons where just a few days ago, U.S. President Joe Biden finally agreed to send Kyiv its ATACMs. These are long-range missiles with extremely powerful warheads that can strike targets of up to 300 kilometers away. Now, the United States has been very hesitant to send these weapons to Ukraine because, number one, it has its own limit of stockpiles for itself, but also because Washington feared that Russia would accuse the U.S. of escalating the war if Ukraine decides to send these missiles to Russian territory. But Ukraine has said that it will commit to not send these missiles to Russian territory. And so indeed, we have seen some major developments in terms of weapons production and also military aid to Ukraine in the past few days.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will visit North Korea next month. He made the remarks during a press conference at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Lavrov says his upcoming visit to North Korea is part of an agreement reached between Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un earlier this month.
The visit of Kim Jong-un to the Russian Federation included comments to the press by our president, and he talked about the areas of cooperation that were discussed and that we agreed to further develop. And in accordance with our agreements reached between Kim Jong-un and Mr. Putin, we will carry out negotiations in the Pyongyang, which may indeed take place next month.
Meanwhile, North Korea has slammed South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol for criticizing its cooperation with Moscow. Kim Jong-un said it's natural for neighbours to maintain close relations. Last week, Yoon expressed concerns at the United Nations General Assembly that if Russia supported North Korea's weapons program in exchange for assistance in the war against Ukraine, it would be a direct provocation. France has decided to pull its troops out of Niger after the recent coup in the African nation. It also plans to end its diplomatic mission there. This latest move is a major reversal of the stance taken by French President Emmanuel Macron.
Nous mettons fin à notre coopération militaire avec les autorités.
In an interview with France's TF1 and France 2 television stations, French President Emmanuel Macron on Sunday said that France has decided to end its military presence in Niger and pull its 1,500 troops out of the African country by the end of the year, following the military coup there in July this year. The French ambassador and the diplomats stationed in the region were also being recalled, he said. The move comes following the announcement of the Niger's military rulers declaring a ban on French aircraft from flying over the country's airspace. The decision of the Niger's controlling military regime was published in the website of ASECNA, the Agency for the Safety of Air Navigation in Africa and Madagascar.
De ramener son ambassadeur.
France has decided to bring back its ambassador, and so in the coming hours our ambassador with several diplomats will return to France, and we are ending our military cooperation with the de facto authorities of Niger because they no longer want to fight against terrorism. It will be organized over time in the weeks to come, but it is the end of this cooperation because we are not here to participate in political life, to be hostages in some way to the Pushits. But I will be very clear, they will return in an orderly manner in the coming weeks and months. And there we will consult with the Pushits because we want it to happen peacefully.
Mais d'ici la fin de l'année.
Mais d'ici la fin de l'année.
Meanwhile, President Macron said France still regarded democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum, currently held prisoner by the coup leaders, as the country's legitimate leader and had informed him of his decision. Amit Mukherjee, DD India.
And DD India's Sarah Coates has sent us more from Paris on the timeline of the withdrawal.
This comes amid mounting pressure from the military and, of course, growing anti-French sentiment there in the region. The most recent demonstration we saw was a massive one in the capital, actually outside this military base where 1,500 French soldiers are stationed. Now, President Macron, he did make this address, this announcement overnight, speaking to French media, saying that the ambassador and a number of diplomats will be the first to be pulled out of Niger. We can expect that to happen today, and they will be potentially arriving back here in France by the end of the day. President Macron did mention a few weeks ago that the ambassador is basically holed up under house arrest with him and a number of diplomats surviving on military rations right now. Now, with regards to these 1,500 troops that are stationed there, President Macron says they will be pulled out in the coming weeks and months, with this full operation to pull them out wrapping up by the end of 2023. He also did mention that this will be in coordination with these coup leaders to keep the transition peaceful.
Hundreds of ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh have begun a mass exodus towards Armenia, days after Azerbaijan seized control of the breakaway territory in a military offensive.
After Azerbaijan launched a rapid offensive to reclaim the breakaway territory, hundreds of ethnic Armenians left Nagorno-Karabakh region. As per the Armenian government's report, over 2,900 individuals have crossed the border into Armenia by Sunday night local time. Refugees were provided food and shelter in the border town of Goris. Meanwhile, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said all ethnic Armenian compatriots from Nagorno-Karabakh will be welcomed in Armenia. Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh continue to face the threat of ethnic cleansing. In recent days, humanitarian aid has arrived in Nagorno-Karabakh, but this does not change the situation. And unless real living conditions are created for the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh in their homes and effective mechanisms of protection from ethnic cleansing, then the likelihood that the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh will see exile from their homeland as the only way to preserve their lives and identity increases significantly. Our government will welcome our sisters and brothers of Nagorno-Karabakh in the Republic of Armenia with all care. The ethnic crisis of Nagorno-Karabakh region was prominently taken by the world leaders at the UN General Assembly. During a meeting with his Armenian counterpart, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar appreciated Armenia's sharing assessment of the current situation in South Caucasus. Notably, India recognized Armenia in 1991, and India's ambassador in Moscow was concurrently accredited to Armenia. Armenia has earlier called for the immediate deployment of a UN mission to monitor human rights and security in Nagorno-Karabakh.
British Army soldiers are on standby to step forward and help out with policing if required. It comes after dozens of police officers here in the British capital, London, stepped back from frontline duties. It follows concerns after one of their colleagues was charged with murder over the shooting of an unarmed man. John Beaver reports from London.
The Metropolitan Police here in London have just over 2,500 officers who are licensed to carry a firearm. But since Saturday, they've had to call in other police forces to ensure they have enough personnel. The Ministry of Defence has also agreed to provide armed soldiers to help with counter-terrorism support should it be needed. The Met Police are describing this as a contingency option that would only be used in specific circumstances and where an appropriate policing response was not available. This extra help is needed because it's being reported that more than 100 armed officers have stood down from firearms operations. They're concerned about a perceived lack of legal protection if they have to use their weapon. It follows the decision to charge an officer with murder after he shot unarmed Chris Cabba in London last year. The 24-year-old was driving a car that did not belong to him that had been linked to a gun incident the day before. He was shot while sitting in the driver's seat and died in hospital the next day. The officer who shot Mr. Cabba appeared in court last week charged with murder. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner has said his officers need sufficient legal protection to enable them to do their job. The Home Secretary has now ordered a review of armed policing. John Beaver in London, reporting for DD India.
The first asteroid sample collected in space by US space agency NASA has touched down on Earth. Scientists say the asteroid Bennu could give us a better understanding of the formation of our solar system and how Earth became habitable. They're also keen to learn more about the asteroid because it could hit our planet in the next 300 years. DD India's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
Well, NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft released a capsule containing soil from the asteroid Bennu, and it safely parachuted into the Utah desert just west of Salt Lake City.
We just appreciate everyone coming along with us to celebrate NASA's first ever asteroid sample return. It has been incredible.
The robotic spacecraft launched in 2016 and landed on the asteroid in 2020, where it collected a sample from the surface of Bennu. NASA says the mission will help scientists to understand how planets formed, and one theory is that small worlds like Bennu once seeded Earth with the prebiotic ingredients that were needed to form life.
Once these samples are taken to the Johnson Space Center, we'll be able to start removing them, deintegrating the science canister, evaluating those samples, and providing them to the scientific community.
So I'm going to be looking for the basics. Are there clay minerals there? Are there carbonate minerals? Are there organic molecules? Do we see the iron oxides, the other things that we predicted on the asteroid's surface? I'm sure there's going to be surprises in there. Once you get into the dust scale, you'll probably start to see a wide level of diversity, but it's kind of like a sneak peek of what might be in store for us.
It's difficult to test out this idea using pieces of asteroids that reach the Earth's surface, known as meteorites, because they're heated by the atmosphere and contaminated by microbes that are on the ground. But scientists hope that this uncontaminated sample straight from the asteroid's surface will hold many clues to our origins. Kate Fisher in Washington, reporting for DD India.
That's it from me here in London. Shibendu, back to you in the studio.
What a fascinating achievement there, collecting a sample from an asteroid. Thanks very much, Ollie, for those updates. And still to come on DD India Global. India gets its first hydrogen fuel cell bus in Delhi. Striking Hollywood writers reach tentative deal with studios. Stay tuned to know more about it.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. India's first green hydrogen fuel cell bus was launched to bolster green mobility on Monday. India's Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri flagged off the bus in New Delhi. Vehicles with hydrogen fuel cells can refuel in minutes and have a much longer range than battery electric vehicles. But infrastructure is lacking. It is energy efficient in hydrogen fuel cells. Hydrogen mixes with oxygen to produce water and energy to power a battery. Apple Inc. is planning an expansion of its production activities in India. As per government sources, the company is aiming to increase its production value to about $40 billion over the next 4 to 5 years. Apple is already manufacturing iPhones in India and has plans to start manufacturing AirPods from next year. In the last fiscal, Apple's production surpassed the $7 billion mark in India. iPhone 15 series hit the stores in India and globally on September 22nd. For the first time, Apple made India-built iPhone 15 models available in the country and in other parts of the world. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Ford Motor says it still has significant gaps to close on key economic issues before it can reach a new labor agreement with United Auto Workers Union. This comes in contrast to the UAW president's indication of improvement in Ford's contract offer. Furthermore, UAW also did not launch any new strikes in Ford facilities on Friday, citing real progress in talks, but it expanding its strikes against General Motors and Chrysler parent Stellantis in 38 parts distribution centers across the United States. From automobiles to Hollywood, writers have reached a tentative labor agreement with major studios on Sunday. Writers Guild of America termed it as exceptional with meaningful gains and protections for writers. WGA members must still have a final say. The settlement, however, will not return Hollywood to work. The SAG, AFTRA Actors Union remain on strike. In Morocco, 1 week since the deadly earthquake, damaged schools in Morocco have now started enrolling students. Students are receiving medical as well as psychological support to aid their transition back to normalcy. In Egypt, art aficionados are coordinating tours where they employ their skills to record the country's historical sites. This endeavor aims to draw individuals from diverse backgrounds and establish a connection between budding artists and Egypt's abundant historical heritage. For almost 2 decades, a Vietnamese farmer Laban Chia has transformed his land in Vinh Long province into a bird sanctuary. His dedication is a heartwarming story of nature preservation as he spends his days caring for and rescuing birds, earning a reputation as an eccentric for his love for these creatures, but he remains steadfast in his mission. In sports, India won gold medal in the women's cricket discipline at the 19th Asian Games in Hangzhou on Monday. In the finals, India beat Sri Lanka by 19 runs in a low-scoring affair. Batting first, India scored 116 for 7, while batting first, Smriti Mandhana and Jemaya Rodrigues, the only players to reach double digits. In reply, Sri Lanka were stopped short on 97 for 8 in their 20 overs. For the Islanders, Hasini Pereira, Nilakshi De Silva and Oshadi Ranasinghe were among the runs, but didn't get the requisite support at the lower end to chase things down. This is India's second gold medal of the Hangzhou Asian Games after men's 10-meter air rifle team created a world record in extending the country's medal tally to 11.
It's a very big achievement for us because in the Commonwealth we can't achieve the gold, but in this tournament we're just thinking for the gold, and just we all are teammates backing each other, and of course our head coach is really nice, sir, so he supports us a lot.
That's all for this edition of DD India Global. We will be back with another edition shortly at 7:30 p.m. IST. For feedback, you can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.com. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global. Namaskar.